these questions are just questions that I've randomly found. I haven't done them with any of my pupils. I may have done similar questions with you before. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to have a go at the question, pause the video before I carry on. I'll give you about 5 seconds before I give the answer. If you get the answer correct, great. Just move on to the next question. There's going to be about 20 minutes worth for each bit. The best possible outcome is you actually do the question. Obviously, I can't, if you're out and about and you've got other things going on, just go through and watch the solutions. You'll get some sort of benefit from them. If the first batch of questions are foundation bonus ones, they are, if you're doing foundation, the most important thing is stuff like multiplication, division, bid mass, fractions of an amount, percentages, ratios, that sort of stuff. Make sure you're all fully aware of those ones. These questions are just bonus ones. There's some pretty tricky one in particular. It's pretty tricky on there that I can think of. And this might become a series depending on how much time I get. For the higher pupils, same goes really. If you're looking for those grades 7, 8, and 9s, this is perfect because these are most of the questions I've aimed for those areas. There's some really tricky questions on there. One in particular, again, is really, really tricky. Just go through and do your best with them. Pause the video, have a go at them, see how you get on with it. If you get them right, woohoo! If not, don't worry about it. It's fine. Like I say, with those for the foundation pupil, for the higher pupils, the main thing you want to be focusing on stuff like expanding triple brackets, factorizing harder quadratic algebraic fractions, that sort of stuff, cumulative frequency and box plots, those kind of easier marks, and some of the crossover foundation stuff before you go into these high end, like end of question topic questions. They're going to differentiate the grade 6 pupils from the grade 9 pupils. All right, good luck, guys. Hope you're going all right. Bye. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, no calculators. Have a go at the question. If you get it right, just carry on to the next question. If not, I will show you how to do it afterwards. Right, so the solution coming up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is, let's put the pen up, 0.962. Right, did you get that right? Okay, if you did, skip on to the next section. If not, I will show you what to do. Okay, so let's have a go at it. Right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to remove the decimal places. We'll put them back in afterwards. Right, so we're going to do 37 times by 26. Now, I'm really hoping that all of you are okay with long multiplication. I know some of you aren't so good, but the main thing is accuracy. When you're in the situation in your exam, you might want to seriously consider doing this twice. When I was recording the video, I actually did 37 times by 62. So I had to redo this part of the video. So it's really important that you're going to make sure you get these accuracy marks. So we're going to do 6 times 7, which is 42. Carry over the 4. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus the 4 gives us 22. Okay, right. The bottom bit is going to be 0. 2 times 7 is 14. Carry over the 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus the 7, which gives us that. So then we're going to do 2, 6, and 9. So it's 962. But clearly, working out 0.37 times by 0.26 is not 962. But this answer is, though. So what is the difference between the two? Now, if I make that a little bit bigger, we're going to have 0.37 times by 0.26. Well, if we compare the two, well, we missed out these decimal places. And if we look at the question, well, if we look at the 9.62, just put it bigger on its own, well, the decimal point in this is going to go here. Now, the decimal point needs to be moved that many places. Now, in real life, the decimal point doesn't actually move. We're going to be pedantic about it. However, we need to for simplicity's sake, rather than shifting all the numbers around, we're just going to move the decimal point. Now, you may have been taught otherwise. This is how I normally show it. So we're going to move it 1 place, 2 places, 3 places, but hold on, we've got no numbers left. So what I normally just get to do, just for emphasis, I just put in a load of zeros. Boom, 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 boom. There's a load of zeros. And then we move it there. And we're going to move the decimal point to there. Now, we normally, as a standard, put a 0 in front of the decimal place, but all these other zeros can just go away. So then our final answer, as mentioned, is 0.00962. Very, very badly drawn. 00962. For some reason, we have massive zeros. I don't know why. Oh well, never mind. Okay, question done. Okay, so next question. Same rules apply. No calculators. And have a go. Answer will be on the screen in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is, drum roll, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I hope you all got that. If you didn't, you're going to have to listen to me tell you how to do it, which is, I know, is really interesting. I'm sure it's exactly what you wanted to do. Right, okay, so let's go and have a look at it. Right, so we've got 12, and it's going to be 4x, and it's going to be 25. Right, okay, so we basically need to get x on its own, which is going to be obviously a theme within algebra in general, but we need to get rid of it. Now, what's different about this one, which you may or may not have come across before, is that we've got to basically do it. We've got to divide through by 4, which actually that bit you probably may be able to recognize because we're effectively timing the x by 4. We have to do the opposite, but we have to do it to actually both sides of this. So we've got to divide that by 4 and that by 4. Now, this would be 12 divided by 4 gives us 3, which is pretty straight up, pretty obvious. Now here we're going to have 25 divided by 4. Now, normally I'd say write it as a top-heavy fraction, it's okay, but we need to be thinking about, because of these integer values, we need to think about, well, what is 25 divided by 4? Well, 25 divided by 4, well, 24 divided by 4 is 6, so it's going to be 6 and a quarter. So is less than 6 and a quarter. Now, going back to that integer value concept, well, what is an integer? Well, an integer is a whole number. So we've basically got to go, well, what integers actually hold by this rule? Well, x is greater than or equal to 3. So 3 clearly is a number that holds to that rule. And, well, 4 also holds to that rule. And 5 also holds to that rule. And so does 6. But clearly 7 doesn't. So you have to actually write out the value. So the purple bit on its own will give you 1 mark, right? So we've got to be thinking about where these marks are coming from. The purple bit will give you the 1 mark. That's like the main bit, right? But a lot of people will miss out that red bit. So really make sure you get the extra mark for the integer values. And if you haven't come across that, it's inequalities that you need to be looking at on Maths Student. I believe it's grade 4. Right, so other question again. No calculators. Solution is coming up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you get it right? I hope so. If not, you've got to listen to me for the next few minutes. Right, okay, so there's a few. I chose this question because I think there's quite a few people, when you're in the heat of the moment, you're probably going to get this question wrong. The classic thing I would say is that a lot of people just go, it's 20%, right? I've got to find 20% of £15. That'd be one thing I'd expect people to do. They might also think this is like a reverse percentages question, which it kind of is, but it's not a proper reverse percentage question. So here, it just says that if we actually properly read the question, because that is not right, if we properly read the question, we're going to have, in sale, normal price is reduced by 20%. Okay? The normal price of the coat is reduced by 15%. So you've got to be really, really careful about the words, right? 20% is therefore equal to £15. So we don't have a calculator, not £115, £15. What do we do? Now, there's a few ways that we could work this out. We could do fine. I'm going to try and use the 10% method. You could find it out as a fifth. So people might be going, well, why not make it a fifth and then times it by 5? So you could just directly times by 5. But let's just try and use a rule that will kind of work well for everything. So here, what we can then instead do is, okay, well, let's try and find what 100% is. So here, this is technically a reverse percentage question, like what I said at the start. But it's not in a traditional sense. Right, okay, stop rambling, James. Right, okay, so 20% divided by 2 is 10%. So we have to do 15 divided by 2. Now, if you're not sure how to do this, you're going to have to do 15, and you're going to have to do 15 can be 0, carry over the 1. 15 divided by 2 is going to give us 7, but we've run out of space. So what you can do is you can you can just put a decimal point in there and see if you can go any further. So here, well, there's going to be a decimal point there. We're going to carry over, what is it, 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so it's going to be 7.5. So it's going to be £7.50. I think a lot of people will be able to just do that in their head, but some people their mental arithmetic isn't necessarily very good. I've got people doing A-level who still have to use their fingers to add up. That's not maths, that's mental arithmetic. It's something different. Okay, so here, we're then going to have to go from here to, I'm just going to rub that out. No. I think I've got room. Right, 100%. is equal to, well, here we have to go from 10% to 100%. So we just got to times it by 10. So here, times that by 10 as well. So that's going to give us £75. So our final answer is the price of that coat is £75. Done. Okay, so a pretty tricky question here. Have a go at it. Take your time. No calculators. Answers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, no, that's me moving it around. Hold on. The suspense must be killing everybody. Right, x is equal to 21, and y is equal to 50. Okay. Hopefully some of you got that. Like I say, tricky question. We're going to go over the solutions. Let's have a look at this one. Right, really tricky question, in all honesty. It's question 28, so it's the last question on foundation paper. It definitely will be on the higher paper. We need to basically use elements of shapes and knowledge of angles and all that kind of jazz, as well as a relatively sort of intermediate algebra. So let's go and have a look at it. Right, okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to basically know that these two angles here, if I label this angle here, I'm going to try and color code, as anyone who's used with me likes to know, I like to make things colorful. We're then going to go and look at this. We're going to have 5x minus 20 is equal to 2x plus 43. So why are we making that? Well, they're equal, so we can make them an equation. Right, now the next thing we're now going to solve. So we're being tested on being able to know that those two angles in a parallelogram, opposite angles in a parallelogram, are equal. So that's what one mass fact that we need to draw from. So because of that, we can make those two algebraic expressions an equation. We then have to then go ahead and solve the equation. Now, the fact that this is on foundation, some people might be surprised at who aren't familiar with the GCSEs, because some foundation, even though people think it's foundation, oh, it must be basic, this is still classed as foundation, not just higher. Excuse my cat in the background. Right, okay, right. So here we're going to have 3x minus 20 equals 43. So you basically take away the smaller value of x from both sides for simplicity's sake. If you're unfamiliar with this, you basically look into solving algebraic equations with an unknown on both sides and for a deeper level. And we then look how we know, okay, well, the first thing that's going to happen is that 3x is going to be multiplied, x is going to be multiplied by 3, minus 20 equals 43. So we're going to do the inverse of minus 20 and add 20 to both sides. Here's going to be 3x is equal to 63. And then we just divide both sides by 3. Okay. So here is going to be x is equal to 21. Okay, so we've got probably 2 marks for that. And notice the 5 mark. So it's quite a mark-intensive question. So the next step is we've then got to then take that and then work out, well, what are those angles? So let's change color because we've got a whole different process. So here now we've got to work out the value of what those angles are. Well, actually, no, let's just stay the same color because we think of the angle. So here we're going to have, if we look at this bit here, we're going to have 5x minus 20. That means that now when we substitute that value of x back into it, we should get 5 times 21 minus 20. Now, if you're unsure about that, you can use long multiplication. I'm just going to go 5 times 21 is going to give me 105 because I'm super clever and I can do it in my head. Only joking. Right, 105 minus 20. Okay, so that's going to give us 85. Right. Okay, so we now know that one of those angles is 85. Now this is where the next step kicks in. The next step kicks in with that we need to figure out effectively what is, to be able to work out what y is, we need to work out what that angle is though. Well, what is the value of that angle? Well, to do that, we have to do some other work. So we've got to take that 85 and go, okay, well, this angle is 85 degrees. Now, because they match, this angle also must be 85 degrees. I hope you can see that's 85. Once we've taken that 85 degrees, we can just times that by 2, and we can say that those two angles are going to be 170 degrees. Okay. We've then got to figure out what that angle is on its own. Well, these two angles are also equal. Let's make that blue as well, right? That's both blue as well, right? So those two angles are both equal. So let's go and figure out what they're going to be left over. Well, all the angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees. So we're going to do 360 degrees minus 170, and that is going to be 190 degrees. So those two angles together are going to be equal to 190 degrees, and they're both equal. So what we can then do is we can then figure out what just this blue angle on its own is. So just the blue angle, just that 4y minus 5x, well, that is just on its own equal to 190 divided by 2. So that is going to give us 95 degrees. Okay. So we now know that that's 95 degrees. And yeah, so there's another mark, I would think. I haven't actually seen the mark scheme for this. I'm presuming that's going to be another mark. Right. Okay, let's go to our blue. So we now know that we now know from this that 4y minus 5x is equal to 95 degrees. So what on earth do we do now? Well, we already know that from this bit here that x is equal to 21. So we can say 4y minus 5 times 21 equals 95. We then can just expand that bit. Well, 5 times by 21, I think we did that earlier. That's going to be 105 is equal to 95. And then we just got a relatively simple, but with big numbers, equation to solve. So we do the inverse process. If this is unfamiliar, look up solving equations. It's super important. We cancel those sides out. It's going to give us 4y is equal to 200. All right. We then go and divide through by the 4 on both sides, and we get a final answer of y is equal to 50. Right. Now, notice I'm laying this out. The first thing I'm doing, I'm all that writing, the examiner is going to want you to make sure that it wants to see the answers. So make sure you underline or highlight or make sure clearly what your actual answers are. Try and lay out your working. That's the level of working you're expected to really show. Really quite a tough question, especially being as it's on the foundation as well as the higher. It would be a sort of an intermediate question on higher, but the fact that was the last question, I would expecting very few people to get at least the value of y, and I think a lot of pupils aiming for grade 5 would also struggle. All right, I hope all that makes sense. I think I'm going to make that the last question for the foundation and intermediate part 1 of these. I'm hoping there's going to be more in a part 2. I'm also going to be doing a higher for the harder, tricky questions going forward. So if you liked this video, like and subscribe and all of that, and I'll make better quality and edit and do all of that jazz going forwards, because at the moment I'm so busy I can't really go through and learn how to properly edit videos and do all that. But I'll make them more interesting, and I'll try and do more stuff if people are actually interested and like what's going on. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.